Hello. Oh, you know what? Actually, hold on. Give me a minute. Let me just close down all that because I don't want to be. Okay. Hello. So today I'm going to be doing a full moon reading because so let me share. I'm going to share somebody's channel that I came across via a comment that they made on one of my videos, and it was very sweet, and it just was like a little click, and I wanted to share their recent full moon video because it was really great and I completely resonated, and I feel like this person is really tapped into the energy of the collective. So I just want to shout them out. Their name is Imani Nathando, I believe. I'm going to link their channel in the comments and also link their full moon reading in the description and in the comments. So shout out to Imani. Inspired me to do this reading. Also Kino. I love Kino Tarot. And I am going to be doing this reading. Okay, so we have Soache? I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing. You may also know her as Sarah Bartman or the Black Venus, but those are names that were given to her during a time of oppression. So we go by Soache. Grounding. So I'm just shuffling my African Goddess Rising Oracle, and and the goddesses are speaking. Okay, I wasn't planning on using. Holy. Okay, so but do I need to take all of these? Because you know it's a lot. So let's just see what you say. Anyways, I am doing a full moon reading. The full moon is happening Saturday or Sunday. And I just want to see what's going on because the collective energy, what I continuously hear via other readers and when I'm shuffling my decks, what is coming out is giving, like, there's an energy coming in that none of us can imagine. Like, it's just like miracles happening, blessings coming that are just completely without, our understanding of how these things are going to work out. It's just coming. That's what everybody's saying. That's what I'm feeling too. And I know that for a lot of us, we hear that and we're like, because it's been a long time. It's been a long time. Many of us have been waiting. But I'm telling you, it's coming. It's here. The time's here. And I don't know if it's this month or within the next day, within the next few weeks. I don't know. Because, timing with the universe really just be all over the place. But we are going to do a little reading and see what the energy is saying. Not the revolution. Well, I mean, it is time to let go of resistance, which is probably why this is our, thematic card for the reading, which is all about grounding, being in your body, being in the physical, being present. One, so that you can receive your blessings, you can receive your miracle, not being afraid to be unique and stand out, just being fully embodied in your physical form and not being so detached, trying to ground yourself and welcome yourself back into life, because there are so many joys and so many gifts coming in that you deserve and that you have earned simply through surviving, simply through living on. These are gifts that are meant for you and that you are deserving of and that are equal to you. You match that energy, not because you had to do anything to earn it, but because this is your natural, universe-given, God-given, spirit-given, whatever you believe in. It is your inherent right to be joyful and to be living in abundance and to be living prosperously. There is no shame around, there is no shame around living in abundance, especially when that abundance is in alignment with also caring for the earth and caring for each other and being very intentional and being compassionate and loving. When you're living in abundance from that mindset, there is no shame around that. There's no greed around that. That is how we're supposed to exist. We're supposed to be flourishing. I was watching today on Netflix, there's that new show that Obama's narrating. Fearless Love of Shown, welcome it in, welcome it in. Our great national parks. And it talks about, I love watching any show that explores like nature or the universe. I just like seeing our worlds. So that always makes me happy. And I love seeing the animals. They're cute. I love them. But in the show, it's just talking about what happens when we actually preserve and give land back to nature to allow the world and to allow our Mother Earth to replenish and nourish herself and be in pleasure and be at rest and in a state of peace rather than constantly working and tilling and toiling and struggling. That is not how we're meant to exist. And when you allow Earth to operate on her natural level, which is, balancing the divine feminine, the divine masculine, removing gender, but those energies, which are mixing pleasure and peace and passion and joy and creativity with, the desire to expand and to create and to lead and to forge ahead, balancing out those energies, which Mother Earth does naturally, which is why we live on such a beautiful, abundant, naturally abundant planet. Allowing Mother Earth to live in that state allows for all of us as Earth beings, people, plants, creatures, animals, all Earth beings, and those up above, down below, all around us, to thrive and to live in a state of just like miraculous, replenishing, constant, long-lasting, everlasting abundance. Because that's how we're supposed to live. Like, there's this one little creature in one of these forests, I think it's in Kenya, Tsavo, Kenya, I think. It's either them or what episode was it before? Chile, so the Patagonia. It was one of those two areas. And this little creature's job is to eat like their whole body weight every night. And by doing that, they are helping the earth and helping their forest continue to grow and thrive. Because as they eat, they drop the seeds, and the seeds begin to plant into the earth, and then you get another tree. And you see what I mean? So it's like, we're not meant to just be out here struggling and, breaking our backs in order to deserve being happiness. Absolutely not. There's another example of the pumas in, where was that? I can't even remember. But it's the pumas in a mountainy area. And scientists had always thought that they were solitary creatures. But they were actually just traveling alone because of the threat of other pumas being around when there is a scarcity in resources and food. And so they weren't able to socialize and be around each other because everybody was on edge, just trying to survive. Very similar to all of us, right? So they weren't socializing, they weren't getting to be in community because they had to survive and they were thinking about food. But in these natural preserved reservoirs, they are now being able to socialize with each other, and we're discovering that they're actually very social creatures. So they're not meant to be alone. They actually like being around others. It was just that they were surviving. And so they were literally depriving themselves of, of connections, of relationships, because they were wondering if they were going to be able to eat. You know what I mean? So the way that we think that we have to struggle in order to live in abundance and live joyfully aligned with, the earth and her natural resources and live out our deepest desires and our dreams, as long as they are also coming from a place of love and a place of nourishment and a place of gratitude that also gives back as much as you receive. The idea that we have to earn that and that that's just not our natural right is bullshit. It's created by capitalism. It's a load of crap. And we need to and I understand that that's a lot harder said than done because we are living in a society that is very, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it feels like not many of us have power, but I'm telling you, we do. And I'm just getting this sense of community is going to continue to grow, the desire to have fulfilling, deeply rooted, soul-based connections that are loving, that are healthy, where there's great communication, where people understand each other, where people are listening to each other and being vulnerable with each other. Those types of communities, those types of relationships are only going to continue to grow in demand, and also just in the amount of relationships that exist like that in the world, amongst each other as people, amongst each other as earth beings, amongst each other as beings in the universe. That is just an idea and energy that is multiplying, which is very exciting. I'm very excited by that. And I know that it's true because I've been consistently seeing, whenever I see like a creature, especially like birds, and it's not like birds are really ever alone anyways. They're pretty much always in a flock, or at least there's birds around. But I've been consistently seeing these two ducks. It looks like they're a couple. They're very cute. They're very cute. Just in like the little park that I walk through, they're always there. And this started this week that I've been seeing them, and the weather's been nice, so I think that they're just out by the river, just having a great time. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of twos, which is letting me know, and I was listening to a reading the other day. Who was saying it? I think it was like Stargirl Witch. She's a really great reader, and she's here on YouTube. And she was saying, as people, we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be in pairs. And I think that that's honestly just an energy of the earth. Like, on earth, you're not meant to be alone. Like, we are a community type of people, a community type of species. Earth beings are meant to be in community. That's how we thrive. Earth itself is a community within itself. Nature is like, you operate and you grow and you thrive when communing with others. And that is how we will get ahead. That is how we will survive. Even on this show, there's like all of these animals that are adapting to the changing climates because of climate change and are having to find new ways to find food and to survive. And they're, instead of becoming more, stealthy in their own independent right, they're learning to work with each other. These birds are now working with these little mongoose and being lookouts for them so that the eagles can't come and snatch them, and then in exchange the mongoose will like dig up the little creatures from the earth and leave some for the birds to eat. It's like they're all working together, and that is how they are thriving, and they are getting to live their best lives. And we play a role in that because we're giving back. Actually, we're not creating anything. We're giving back the land. We're giving back the land that we just decided that was ours, and saying to Earth, I'm sorry, you were right, here's this land, do what you will, and we're not even having to really do anything. Like, it's really the simplest thing of just not being selfish and greedy and just giving back what you took. And just from that simple act, and it is simple, I don't care what these governments say, it's simple, just give the land back. Just from that simple act, we are literally helping to preserve all of these creatures, save all of these species that could be going extinct, and just change, the energy of the world. It's very, very exciting, and I'm just a very hopeful person when it comes to the fate of our planet and the fate of, all Earth beings. I know that things can feel grim and difficult, but I do, in my heart of hearts, believe that things are going to be okay, and I do not believe that we are all going to have to suffer in order to get through these next, few decades. I do think it's not going to be, I'm not even going to speak that into existence. So I don't believe that we will have to suffer. I think that as long as you can find the strength within you to take a risk and listen to your soul, listen to your heart, and trust yourself. And trust others and begin to build genuine relationships, be authentic, be open-minded, be compassionate, and be loving. I think that we're going to get through these times in a way that is actually going to surprise us in terms of how joyful and loving it can be, and abundant and prosperous it can be. There is nothing wrong with money. There's no shame and no, negativity around money. It's just about the energy, at which you engage with it. If you're afraid of it and if you think it's evil, then, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be a great relationship. If you exploit it and you use it as a power tool to keep others out and to create, you know, a hierarchical system, then no, it's not a great tool. You know, then you're changing the energy around it. But money within itself is just like, it's a magical thing that we can use to get things that we need, to blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know, it's just something that we can utilize. And yes, I do have my own dreams about a cashless society, a moneyless society where we just, you know, are doing trades and things like that. But I also understand that money is not evil. It's just the way that we use it. And if we can use it in a way that enriches all of our lives, then I think that it's great. So, yes. So what are the cards? I just like went on a ramble for 15 minutes. I was going to read these cards, but I got, and she was coming out when I was listening to Imani's reading, I was shuffling this deck. Let me show you this deck because it's honestly one of the best ones I've ever had. African Goddess Rising Oracle by Abiola Abrams. Beautiful name. And there's Oshun right on the cover, and Oshun came out as well. Fearless love. Let me tell you, love is in the air. If anybody, and I know that, yes, I have, if anybody has been wishing, hoping, praying for their soulmates, then let me tell you, it's on the way. It's on the way. Love's on the way. I am not going to be quiet about it. It's here. The energy's here. And let me tell you something. This is the thing. I do not believe that there are just lifetimes where it's like, oh, you're not going to meet your soulmate. Like, you don't get to, you know, you don't get the chance. I don't believe that. I believe that everybody, and we have multiple soulmates, and maybe you didn't plan in this lifetime to have a romantic soulmate. Like, maybe that's just something you didn't care about, your soul. You just wanted to have friends, soulmates, and things like that. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. But either way, I don't believe that there's anybody who was born into an incarnation and, you know, the plan is just to make them suffer and be alone and never find deep-rooted connections. And a soulmate to me is anybody that you feel so loved by and you love so completely without, you know, any constrictions, any hesitations. Someone who accepts you fully, who you accept fully, who you feel safe with, who you feel comfortable with, who you feel at peace with, who supports you, who you support. You know, it is that, it's like somebody, it is the ultimate connection, and it is what it is for you, and you get to define that, and you get to decide who's your soulmate and who is not. And if you're wrong, that's okay too, because life is a mess, and we are wrong about things all the time, and we grow and we change, and, you know, things are what they are. But the point is, I was going to say that everybody has the opportunity to have that type of relationship and that type of connection, romantic, platonic, familial, whatever you're looking for, like work relationship, whatever you're interested in. Everybody has the right and everybody has the opportunity. The problem is, or not the problem, but where a struggle comes in is, you know, giving up. And I understand. I'm not even going to pretend like, you know, just keep the faith, because sometimes it takes decades. Sometimes, you know, others come along that you feel like you're not sure you're going to get another chance. You are losing faith. You're exhausted. You just don't even want to try anymore. Like, it gets very hard to hold that type of hope out for something that is as vulnerable and as meaningful as a relationship with somebody else. And for me, like, that's friendships and romantic relationships. It is very difficult to be vulnerable about wanting to create meaningful friendships and meaningful romantic relationships, because it requires a full, like, exposure of yourself and a full giving of yourself, and just kind of having to trust in that person and see if they'll be willing to take you for all that you are. and as you shift and grow and make mistakes, and it just accept you and support you through every season of your life. When you're joyful and happy and jolly, and when you're depressed and you're a mess and you're saying things that don't make sense, and maybe you're pissing people off and you're uncomfortable kind of to be around, and you're kind of embarrassing, and like if through every season of your life, as long as you remain loving and you're not toxic, quote unquote, and you're not taking away from that person in a fundamental way that's means that you really shouldn't be together, as long as it's not unhealthy. But when you're a little bit difficult, when things are a little bit complex and it's not easy, being able to trust that somebody will be there for you in that way, and being able to trust yourself in order to be vulnerable to that extent and to be there for somebody else in that way is very, very scary. And I know that in my personal life, I don't have any examples of relationships like that. And I don't have any examples, like in terms of my relationships. Actually, well, I have friendships and like family relationships that I would never give up. But I don't have like relationships to look to like that on the level that I'm talking about. So it's very difficult to know what that looks like and what that even means. And I think that for a lot of us, this is going to be the first time that we are experiencing true love. And whether that's friendships or romantic relationships or familial relationships, every type of connection that you can have with somebody else. I think that for a lot of us, this is going to be true love that is coming into our lives. Full, like, soul family type of relationships. And it feels magical and it feels unreal. And that's where, self-doubt can come in, the anxiety about what it's going to take to deserve this, and, whether you're even good enough, and, whether you'll mess it all up, and whether the person will even want you, and there's all these emotions that are human, and so it's okay to feel them, and I don't want the energy around it to be that you can't have anxiety, or else, like, if you have anxiety, then your person's not going to show up. No, that's not what it is. And I've been hearing that confirmation from others, and I feel it within myself as well, because we are human beings. Beyond just being a soul in the universe, we're humans. We incarnated into a human experience. We have all the human emotions, and our bodies react in a very human way. Our mind reacts in a very human way. Our ego reacts in a very human way. And there are certain things that just cannot be undone, and they shouldn't be, because it's a part of being a human being. It's a part of being alive in this incarnation. If you wanted to not have those emotions and those experiences, you wouldn't have come to Earth. So there's no shame around any of those emotions that you experience. And if you're feeling caught up and you're feeling like you don't know what's going on, and you're anxious and you're feeling self-doubt and insecure and all of these things, it's okay. You can feel all of that. You can feel all of that, and things are still going to work out for you. The important thing is that you don't settle. And that was my original point, is I think where a lot of us end up missing out on those connections that are meant for us and aligned with us and we are fully deserving of, is that we settle, because we give up on believing that that's going to come. And for all of the reasons that I listed, so it's not unreasonable to, it's not like I don't understand why it happens. This is the hard part though, about waiting for those connections, is you have to trust. You have to have faith, and you have to kind of surrender to the knowing of how it's all going to play out and when it's going to happen. And it doesn't mean that you can't have meaningful relationships in the meantime, and you have to just stop your life and just, not engage with anything at all until this magical thing comes in. It just means that you can't completely, give up on exit out to the point where there's no space for it to come in. Sometimes we get so, we're in so much pain about feeling like something is not going to happen because we haven't seen any sign of it showing up, sign that we recognize as a sign, any proof. And so we just begin to fill our lives with all of these things to distract us and to take us away from the yearning and the longing and the pain that comes from this gaping hole in our hearts, in our souls, that is needing to be filled by this energy that now that, you know, as the universe is trying to bring it to us, there's no space for it. Energy is very real. It's very real on a physical level. When you have way too much going on in your life that is not aligned with you at all, that you know you don't care about as much, that you know is taking from you and that you're not receiving enough, like that energy blocks out blessings from coming in. It just does. There's a reason why you have to declutter. There's a reason why you have to detox. There's a reason why you have to let go of friendships and relationships. There's a reason why people break up. You can't just stay in situations that aren't meant for you just 'cause. Like, that's not the way things work. You have to rid yourself of that energy. You have to take those risks. You have to end cycles. That is also a part of the human experience. And it's difficult and it's frustrating and it's scary, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And I think that a lot of us have been going through periods of just releasing. I feel like the past few years have been like years of release. It's just been constant, you know, what needs to go. Yep, releasing of shame, releasing of the resistance, soul forgiveness. Absolutely. There's a lot of healing that's been happening. Back when I was doing a lot of readings in February, basically every reading was like the same message. And everybody obviously was very different. So the specifics were different. But the overall messages were a lot around ending relationships that weren't serving you, spending time healing, stop being afraid and stepping into your power, you know, exploring this avenue that you know you really care about, but you're doubting yourself within. It's all of these things around coming into full alignment with your soul and, you know, not ignoring your deepest desires anymore, because that is self-harm. It is self-harm to resist the call of your soul, to ignore your dreams and your desires, because that is what fuels us as human beings and as souls, as creatures of the universe. You know, that desire to live out your dreams and to give service in the way that is most pleasurable and exciting and joyful for you, that also ends up nourishing the people around you and the creatures, the places around you. That is the call of our soul. That is our survival. So not listening to that is self-harm, and living under a system that supports the ignorance of our soul is violence. It's violence. Like, our systems are pure violence. We just live in a violent society. And it's none of our fault. It's honestly, it's people at the top. And, you know, obviously they're struggling too. So everybody's struggling. There's a quote my sister always repeats again and again, that the world is run by traumatized people. And it's absolutely true. And those people, though, a lot of them, as they are aware of their traumas, they're going to therapy and they're doing their little healing things. But they're not also willing to fully give up the level of power that they have. You know, I don't care how many charities Jeff Bezos is donating to when he understands the working conditions that he has in his Amazon facilities and continues to not give a fuck. You know, it doesn't work that way. You can't balance it out that way by throwing money at things while still continuing to exploit and dehumanize people. That just doesn't make sense. And honestly, we all have, you know, our different ways that we need to change, and we all have different ways to take responsibility in terms of what changes, shifts we need to make in our lives to support the growth of Earth and the replenishing of our planet as she goes through this death cycle, and then we'll enter into her rebirth cycle, supporting her through that labor because she is our mother. You know, we all have our roles to play, but accountability is not about to just go out the window because everybody's traumatized. No, you know, even with your trauma, you still have to be accountable for the actions that you take, because just because you're hurt doesn't mean you get to hurt other people. It doesn't work that way. So we can have compassion and we can hold space. I will always hold space. I understand. I get it. But I'm also not going to hold so much space that I end up pushing all the people into the outskirts and ridding them of their land, because you need time and you need space to heal. Like, figure it out. So, anyways, the point, though, is that we have a lot of great energy coming in. We have a lot of great energy coming in, and it is coming in loudly. It is coming in with love. It is coming in with safety and security. It is coming in with abundance. It is coming in with like a warrior-like energy where there is no shame, and there is a reckoning, and there is a revolution happening. I truly believe that the revolution is here, and it's taking form in different ways. And I was doing a reading a few weeks ago that I didn't finish, but I did upload the first half, and I'll upload the other half sometime. But in that reading, I was talking about what role are we all going to be playing in the revolution. And even from those first two piles, there were so many different understandings of what it means to be like a warrior or like a soldier in a fight. And not the type of soldier that, we understand in our understandings of war that exist right now on this planet with, the PTSD and the senseless violence and the just completely dehumanized forms of fighting that aren't really fighting for anything other than, these two power heads warring over their own egos. So, it's not that type of war, and it's not that type of revolution. It is a revolution that is all about liberating our souls and liberating our bodies, liberating our hearts, liberating our minds from this constriction, from this need to conform, from this need to live in this mindset of having to earn every, bit of life that you have. No more of that. No more of that. We are moving into an energy of pleasure. And I wanted to do a sexy little reading, which is why I got out my Tarot of the Sexual Magic. Because I was like, let me do some fun energy with this reading to see what the universe has going for us. I'm just looking. Yeah, like look at all these cards that are here. We have good juju. We have pleasure, but right in the middle, and it's kind of covered as scarcity. And scarcity's been coming out a lot. And I wanted to talk about, because in another reading, I was speaking about how scarcity, we have this idea around, coming from lack, coming from a mindset of lack and how that is a negative thing. And I wanted to kind of flip that on its head because, just give me a minute. Oh my God! That's exactly why the Empress is right here. We have the Empress here. She's guiding over us. When I split that deck in half, we had the King of Cups. There's the King of Wands. And then the Nine of Wands. Okay, all right. Anyways, I was saying about scarcity. Scarcity is not a bad thing. Coming from lack is not a bad thing. I think that we have to, so obviously everything is layered, right? So you could say the same thing about, if you're saying coming from lack, you could say the same thing about coming from abundance. There are negatives to everything. There are complexities. Everything is nuanced. But those who come from scarcity, not having enough, are also those who end up being the ones who, are the innovators. Those are the visionaries, because they are creating a new way of existing. Out of nothingness, they are creating. They are literally the ones doing magic. Those are the witches. Those are the light workers. Those are the people who are pushing the society forward. It's like what they say when they say, if you want to have, progressive, comprehensive, liberating action movements, you need to help the people at the bottom. Because when you help the people at the bottom and put them into a state of empowerment, everybody above them benefits. It's not about only serving the people at the top. That literally does nothing for anyone, and then having the people at the top trickle down all of their resources. That doesn't make sense. You need to give power to the people at the bottom. You need to give a voice to the people who live in scarcity and allow them to show us how to create new ways of thinking, new, innovative materials and technologies that allow us to shift the way that we work in the world to align more with the earth. Because you'll notice that it's also those people who live in scarcity who are the ones that end up living the most off of the land. People who live the most off of the earth and work with the earth to figure it out. Those are usually those people, because you don't have any option. You don't have the option of hiding away in your high rise and, just going to the groceries and blah, 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 blah. You have to figure it out. So you work with Mama Earth and you innovate. There's always those stories coming out of the African continent, all these different countries, but there's always these stories of people coming up and creating all of these amazing inventions that cure all of these, different struggles that are, plaguing, communities. And it ends up, solving these problems. And it's like this 13-year-old who discovers this thing. And it's amazing. And it's coming out of, what we understand as scarcity. But those are some of the most magical states to be in, when you have nothing and then you find a way. That's when your soul really clicks in to full alignment with everything, full alignment with your body, full alignment with the balance of the divine, the masculine, and the divine feminine, and creates and just does what needs to be done. And then suddenly you have all of these new ideas coming in. And so there's an honor in that scarcity. And like I was seeing this older woman who is behind a younger woman, and there's an honor, there's a grace, there's a power, there's a strength to the wisdom and the experience and the peace, the knowingness that comes with being that older woman. Yes, she's not in her fertile years anymore, but who gives a fuck? Divine feminine energy goes beyond laboring and goes beyond the creation of life. Our energy and our physical being isn't just about giving birth to other people. That's not all that we're about. And I just felt the need to advocate for my older women, because there's always just kind of it's either you're the witch or you're the hag or you're the wise old, crone, but everything is very limited in complexity. And women are so amazing, and people, femmes, divine femmes, all people who sit very strongly in that energy are so incredible and so complex in the way that they're able to move throughout the world, despite the energy of, pushback that comes. It is like trudging through, quicksand, heavy mud, with winds in your face, and somehow you just push the wind aside and create a path. And then others are able to follow down that path. Every type of person is able to follow down that path, because you're able to, and that's the other thing about helping people who are at the bottom. When you're at the bottom, you are able to have an understanding of, you are so empathetic that you're able to understand every experience, so that you create paths that allow for every type of person to journey through it, every type of existence, every type of creature to go down that path as well. Versus people with such a limited perspective, because they only live, serving their own needs. They only live serving their own desires, that they create these rigid, thin paths that don't serve anybody. Or they create these charitable, philanthropic, paths that you have to give your heart and a half to get into. To feel deserving of it. Then once you're there, once you're walking down the path, every second somebody is asking you, why you deserve to be here. What is all your trauma? Tell us all your trauma, feeding on all of your pain in order to earn your spot on this path. And when you get to the end, the chances of you continuing to survive once all of that support is gone, because you no longer fit the build of the, aesthetics of the diversity looks that they're looking for, then you have to make it on your own, and you're left without community because you're one of the only ones there, and you're made to fight with the people amongst you, with the community members amongst you, because there's only room for one. It's exactly like the pumas. When you're in a state of survival, especially in these industries where, there's only one black person on the board, there's only one woman in the room, there's only one queer person that gets to talk about this issue, you know what I mean? Then you create competition with each other because you don't feel safe. You don't even feel safe with your own people in the room. You feel actually more safe with just you being there, because at least then you're solidified in your position and you're protected and you know that you have a space. That's what these societies create. That's what happens when we allow people at the top who are extremely traumatized and are not being held accountable for their healing process and making sure that they actually take the actions that they're learning in their therapy and they're learning at these like $1,000 retreats that they get to go to and drink cacao and do ayahuasca and have these mind-blowing experiences, and then don't actually take any of these lessons and apply them to actually make sure that they are serving and giving back, because it's always those people that get to travel to Costa Rica and Tulum and go on these amazing retreats and live in the earth and replenish and then build these incredible homes in the wilderness and floor to ceiling windows so that they can see out into the nature and see the valleys and blah blah blah. It's always those people who are exploiting, taking from the earth, living off of her riches and her glory and abundance, living off of indigenous healing practices, and then not applying any of that knowledge that they're gaining and any of that insight into the universe and understanding of crystals and, my place. And, we don't have to have a purpose. We just need to live. It's always those people who also can have all of that energy for mental health and wellness and, self-care and self-love and blah, 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 who will not apply that in terms of making sure that they are getting out of their comfort zone of their level of abundance to make sure that they can give that to other people at a level that is actually substantial, on a level that makes real impact, It's very frustrating. And there's nothing wrong with rich people. There's nothing wrong and there's nothing evil around money. That's what I was trying to say in the beginning. But there is a level of accountability that has to be there in terms of how are you using that wealth? How are you using it? Because right now we are not in a state of the world where you can just live on your own with your riches. You need to share. You need to share. You have to. It's like you can't just be on your own. It doesn't make sense, especially because most of the people who are at that level of wealth did not earn that money on their own. There's no possible way. Anybody who makes it, none of us get to where we are on our own. That's just not a way that we don't work that way. As human beings, that's not something that happens. Nobody gets to where you are on your own. Yes, you make decisions. Yes, you take action. Yes, you have choices. And you're responsible for those. But people also contribute heavily to getting you to where you are, in the negative way and in the positive way. And that needs to be honored. We are very much so, when we talk about people taking responsibility for their own healing and things like that. And I understand, the need for people to be accountable in that way. But we also have to be accountable for the way that we contribute to other people's traumas as well, right? So yeah, we're traumatized, so we traumatize other people, and it's like, okay, well, let's just, focus on our healing. But you need to be accountable for the way that you just traumatized that person. You don't get to just run off and be like, well, I'm sorry, I was dealing with this stuff. No. And it's not, we don't get to shame people who are like, I'm exhausted and I'm stressed out and my mind is all over the place and my body's, and I have not, my life is a mess because, yeah, I'm overwhelmed by my trauma. Not to mention if you have past life trauma that you don't know where it comes from, you don't know how to figure that out, you don't know it's a lot. So there has to be the balance. But the problem is that for the people who are actively traumatizing other people because they're also traumatized and probably numb and fully disassociating, or they're too afraid to let go of their wealth because they think it'll be completely gone, because they understand that their energy around their abundance is not one based in love. And so, yeah, the idea of that replenishing so easily is, not looking great. So the willingness to let go of that is based in so much fear and insecurity and defensiveness that those people are unaccountable for the way that they hurt other people. And they also haven't been able to hold accountable the people who have hurt them, which are usually their family and their friends and the people closest to them. I've heard so many stories about people, once they, gain a lot of wealth, losing a lot of friendships and losing a lot of, fundamental relationships because you can't trust anybody, because everybody just wants something from you. And that is a form of exploitation within itself. And I'm sure there's a lot of pain and trauma around that as well. And everybody has a right to share their pain, their suffering. and have a right to feel angry about that. But you also have to, at the same time, make sure you're holding space to listen to the way that you've hurt others as well. Even if it wasn't intentional, we all make mistakes. We all hurt people. But you have to take responsibility for that, myself included. I know that I've done a bunch of shit. I know that there are many situations where I was probably in the wrong. I know that there's people that I've probably hurt. And we have to be okay with taking responsibility for that. And, doing what we can to provide closure and healing in the way that we can. And if there isn't a way that feels substantial enough, like acknowledging it at the most, or at the least. Acknowledging it so that somebody doesn't feel alone and invalidated in their experience to the point where they can't move on because they don't even trust themselves in how they feel. That is traumatizing. So that is something that we have to work on. But we're getting there, so it's okay. And the goddess Sekhmet is guiding us through that as well. And soul forgiveness and the wounded healer. I just spent a lot of time on that, but and it's so crazy because it's a conversation that just continuously goes back and forth between accountability and like holding others accountable and holding yourself accountable. It goes back and forth again and again for everybody, because everybody's been hurt. So that's a thing. But let me just try and see if there's any other messages that want to come through, because I've just kind of been talking. The Hermit card, at least for me, has been like coming out again and again and again and again. I love orangutans. They're one of my favorite animals in the world. I think they're so beautiful. I was just looking at the TV because I see the orangutan. Seasons. Nana Buluku. Nana Buluku. Seasons. It's the first card in this deck. And I remember it being a very powerful card. It talks about new beginnings. She's holding this like egg, this pearl egg in her hand. And she's got these pearls over her face. She's the wise woman. She is, a representative of witchy energy, of change. Oh, ooh. We have speak up and naked. Vulnerability using your voice. Revolution. I'm telling you, the revolution is here. It's here, and it's ooh. There's Swatch again, but Aunt Nancy. Betrayal and get juju and rage. Woo, woo, woo. Okay. Yeah. Medusa. There's a lot of like reclaiming. There's a lot of reclaiming of your energy at every level. In terms of reclaiming your joy, reclaiming your pleasure, reclaiming your happiness, reclaiming your healing, reclaiming forgiveness so that you can move on. Forgiveness is for yourself more than it is for anybody else. Reclaiming your voice, but also reclaiming your rage, reclaiming your anger, so that's what I'm saying. All right. These three are speaking up. Oh, yeah. These three are speaking out to me. So we have Medusa with rage, Aunt Nancy with betrayal, and speak up. And then, honestly, these all go together. Soul forgiveness, again, coming out. Good juju, again, coming out. Mami Wata, a water goddess. Mermaids, again, coming out with naked, vulnerability. And then I showed you already Seasons, the first card that came out. But, again, when I was talking about reclaiming of rage, reclaiming of your anger, and reclaiming of your right to hold others accountable. With betrayal, what I'm thinking here is there's a lot of conversations around, especially in the spiritual community, of letting things go and moving forward and not holding on to the past and being okay with you don't always have to to win the argument and things like that. But I also have recently heard a lot of, discussion around, advocating for yourself and making sure that in your act of letting go, you are not running yourself over in the process, in terms of making sure that you're not creating an energy and an understanding within your soul and within your inner child. And it usually stems all the way back to childhood, of believing that you don't deserve to be advocated for, and you don't deserve and you don't have a right to stand up for yourself. I think that in this new full moon energy, sorry, in this full moon energy, there's going to be, I think there's going to be a huge clearing of the throat chakra, number one. I've been feeling that a lot. There's going to be a lot of rebirth, death and rebirth, transformations, and a lot of clearing of the throat chakra, which is why Speak Up is here. And that's why this just fell out. But anyways, there's no negative energy around being angry and expressing that anger towards somebody and holding them responsible for what caused that anger. There's no negative energy around that. And you have every right to do that. And in fact, that's the only way that people learn and understand boundaries. And boundaries is a huge thing that is coming up. For people that have betrayed and have crossed your boundaries and have hurt you and traumatized you, you have every right to say something about that. And you have every right to be angry about that for as long as you want to be angry about it. And you have every right to make the changes that you need to make in your life and to the way that you interact with people to protect you from experiencing that type of pain again. You're allowed to change because of pain. You do not have to just stay the same person even as you continue to be battered on. That's actually not how we're supposed to experience things. In terms of when people are like, get a thick skin, I don't think it should be taken in the way of like, get a thick skin so you can deal with these things. I think it should be as like a protective layer, as in build up your own armor so that you have the ability to protect and advocate for yourself. Not an armor that blocks out anything from coming in and blocks out vulnerability, but actually an armor that builds up the strength in your vulnerability and in your ability to express rage, anger, and hurt and sadness to somebody and not see that as a weakness and not see that as something low vibrational. I don't even believe in things like that. I think that the idea of like a term low vibrational is what you would consider that to be. I don't like hierarchies, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't like things on that tier, because I just think it always ends up, having other signifiers like darkness and blackness being associated with low vibrational energies and negativity and things like that. And it's always, there's all these connotations, and I'm not interested in hierarchies right now. I'm just not. Maybe I'll change, but I don't think I will. I just don't like those types of power structures, because I just don't find them helpful. And through the history that I've seen, it's not giving what it needs to give. Yes, but there's nothing bad associated with speaking up and using your voice. And Medusa is a great, great goddess. And Sekhmet I'm so glad that Sekhmet was here and she was speaking up earlier. And she is a great goddess to look to as kind of a guide in fully embracing that energy. She's been completely demonized by so many, mythology stories and things like that. But I think that a lot of us look at Medusa and absolutely understand her pain, especially if you've heard some of the different interpretations of why she's angry, why she has rage, why her hair is filled with snakes. And I think that it's a completely rational and logical and energy deserving of being expressed, and it needs to exist in the world. Rage needs to exist in the world just as much as the word no needs to exist in the world, just as much as boundaries need to exist in the world. That energy is important because it allows people to understand their own power and the importance of expressing that power, when not just always in terms of how we can uplift each other, but also in terms of how you can make sure that somebody understands your own limitations, your consent, your boundaries, your personal space, you know, your identity, what's of value to you, and protecting yourself. That's very, very important. And that energy needs to exist. And I think the more that we feel comfortable embracing rage and feel comfortable embracing, you know, the energy around no, and being firm in that, and not being apologetic, and not feeling guilty about raising our voice, and not feeling guilty about being mean and being stern and being angry, the more we embrace that energy fully, with our hearts in line and with it coming from a place of self-love and self-protection, the more that I think we are going to see a huge shift and uprisings and revolutions that are like fully people-powered and are not relinquishing and cannot be suppressed by, you know, these powerful systems, which are really just run by a small group of people who are not more powerful than, you know, a mass of people who are advocating for themselves as well as others, in the terms, and as well as the earth, for the betterment of us all. So that is an energy that I think is coming in. And if you feel yourself rageful, you try to look at that energy, process it, and balance it. Understand that you are allowed to hold that energy, but think about where you're holding it, and make sure that you are releasing it as it comes in. Because the important thing, and the reason why people say to let things go, is because you don't want that to build up in a stifling environment. When you are full of rage, but you're not expressing it in a productive way, then you end up just self-imploding and you self-destruct, because your body is just filled with this energy that needs to be let out, and it exists for a reason, so that needs to be expressed, but you're not, usually because you don't believe you are deserving enough of it, and so you just completely self-destruct and self-sabotage. But you have every right to express that. And when you are expressing it, make sure that you're try to do it in a way that is going to be healing for you. Because there is a way to express anger that is healing for you. It can be in a conversation that you have with somebody. It can be going to one of those rage rooms and breaking a bunch of things and screaming. It can be dancing. It can be singing. It can be doing artwork. It can be leading a movement, beginning a business that is fueled by this rage about this issue in your community, or this experience that you had, and fueling a movement that brings people together and creates a healing energy. Direct that energy into something that is purposeful and that is aligned with, you know, a higher service, a higher power that is within you, that you don't have to go and reach for. It's something that is already within you, and it's actually being accessed and triggered with this rageful energy. There's nothing wrong about being angry and wanting to hold others accountable for that anger, those who are responsible for that anger. What's not okay is projecting that onto people who didn't do anything to you, right? So that's when we look at situations with like mass shootings, and it's like, you know, those people didn't do anything to you, and you don't have a right to take out your anger on innocent people because you're upset. That's where we look at, again, the most traumatized people are the people that run the world, or the most traumatized people are the people that end up benefiting most from these systems. And those people are projecting a lot of their own anger and insecurity and rage onto people who are below them on this hierarchy, on this totem pole, through exploitive, work experiences, through hoarding of wealth, through all of these things. And another thing is that, you know, money is not in, I don't believe, like I always say, I've always said, you know, why don't we just print more money? And I understand the economic people always come at my face and they're always like, and again, you know, inflation, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it. But in terms of, on a spiritual level, and just in terms of what the universe can do, there is never not enough money. You know what I mean? Like, money is just a thing. That can be created. It can come from somewhere. The universe will make it happen. So, no, wealthy people cannot stop you from living a life of prosperity and abundance if that's what you truly desire. there's nobody that can stop you from having that. But when I just say wealth hoarding, I do mean in terms of having resources that you know that you can give to others and that just makes sense to share, and that we are all asking to be spread around and you're just hoarding it instead because you just want to. Like, that's when it's just kind of like, I don't understand. So that's what I mean when I say that. But yeah, I'm gonna read this seasons card, and then I think I'm gonna go. So let's see. Okay, here we go. So, Nana Buluku, Goddess of Seasons, Benin. Temple, Threshold Guardians, Element, Air. Nana Buluku is the Most High, Supreme Being, Primordial Mother, Grandmother of all the Orishas deities, and Dahome's wise woman, herbalist, and healer. You have entered a new cycle that is very old. Yes, that's what I'm talking about with this revolution. This revolution that is coming in is a long time coming, and it is also something that has happened repeatedly throughout history, not just human history, but I believe the history of the earth. But this is a new wave in terms of there's a revolution happening on earth, obviously, and there's revolutions happening in the universe, but I think that the collective energy of revolution that is happening around incarnating beings is a new wave of revolutions for incarnating beings, not just on Earth, but everywhere. And it's very exciting. And it is in full connection with the goddesses. And I will be uploading a video about the goddesses and the messages that they have for us, because they have a lot to say. And just divine feminine energy has a lot to say. And it's exciting. But anyways, okay. So, you have entered a new cycle that is very old. Allow yourself to become present. Ooh, that's exactly why our first card that came out was grounding at the very beginning with Swache. Trust in divine timing. Don't be in such a hurry. There are no shortcuts here. Are you ready for a new beginning? You are in or entering a new season that will force you to evolve. This is a time of major transition. You are not stuck. You are holding on to old patterns. Change can be terrifying. Allow yourself to be mentored. When you choose a new path, you are ripe for self-sabotage. A commitment test from the universe may pop up to delay this new path. Stay the course, your time is now. I am limitless, is the goddess declaration. I like this deck, but I also feel like sometimes I don't love the messages that are being said, and I will say that, I just don't like to put that energy out there. So I believe that you are going to step into this new path with full empowerment. And I believe that you are going to step into this new path standing strong and firm in your beliefs and your desires, because you are fueled by not only the call of your soul, the call of the wind, the call of the earth, but the push of the universe that loves you and wants you to thrive and wants you to succeed. And you are always, always deserving of joy and always, always deserving of love. And so there is nothing that is going to come up and stand in the way of that unless you are unable to let go and release. And that is where, what she was talking about with holding on to new patterns. It's understandable. It's very difficult to let go, but you can do it, and you need to do it. Because in order to survive in this new stage that we are moving into as a planet and as the earth beings that live on this planet for as long as you are incarnating here, and also just as souls, because earth is a part of our universe, you are going to have to adapt. You're going to have to evolve, and you are going to need to become more connected to the spiritual, and you need to become more grounded in your body, more present in the earth, more aligned with what you actually desire. You cannot continue to ignore that call. I've told you that it is self-harm, it is self-sabotage, and it is violence against yourself, and it does not help in terms of the energy that exists here on earth, in terms of supporting our earth mother through her laboring process, through her death process, through her rebirthing process, through the new life that is coming into earth. the earth is coming into, that we are all going into, that this universe is going into. So please choose yourself and choose your miracles, because they have chosen you and they want to be there with you. Release what needs to be released. Declutter, detox, do what you got to do. Allow yourself to feel all the feels, but continue to work through them and look at where they're coming from. And, don't be afraid of journeying into the darkness a little bit, the darkness of yourself, of your soul, because I think you'll find that once you get there, what's really there is just parts of you that need to be held, and parts of you that are just missing some love, and love that you can give them and that the universe will give you if you feel like you don't have enough. But you always have enough, because the universe is within you, and the universe is abundant, which means you are abundant and you are divine. So yes, thank you so much. I am glad I did this. Was it a reading? I feel like it was a reading. It was really messages from the goddesses, from the African goddesses. And this deck is awesome. So I'm glad I got to do this. This was the full moon reading, which I think probably applies beyond the full moon. But it's energy that is going to be, I think, magnified by this full moon that is coming up this weekend, which is so exciting. And I'm just excited for all of us, because I know that this is energy that we all really are craving and desire, and totally desires us. So welcoming it in. Yes, celestial alignment. Oh my God. Celestial alignment and level up are the last two. What's that? And feeling safe and surrender. Yes. These are the last two cards that are coming out to just give us what we need. The goddesses love us. They love you. They want you to feel joyful. They want you to be happy, to live in surrender, to be safe. You are being held. You are going to be living in pleasure, sacred lust. You are going to be living your best life. So thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to do this, and I hope that you have a great full moon and a great life in general. So much, much, much love.